Hi there and welcome to More Can Modular, the ABC of modular. This series of videos is a journey through some of the people that inspire me to mess around with modular synthesis and some of the techniques used to create electronic sounds. Nothing here will be a deep dive. I lack the brains for that. There are better, more knowledgeable people who do that here on YouTube. As usual, I'll link to other channels in the description if I've perked your curiosity. Thank you very much for your encouragement in the comments, your subscriptions and your likes. I genuinely appreciate every view of a video. My dad is the executive director of this video, so hopefully the low production values will be slightly better. In this episode, I researched Edgar Froese of Tangerine Dream fame and discovered a world of interesting krautrock, a practical example of FM synthesis, even though I have no understanding of it, and finally a look at some of the filters that I have in my system. I'm not paid in any way for any content. The modules in my rack have been bought and paid for with my own money. The thoughts, mistakes and ramblings are all my own. So, on to Edgar Froese. Edgar Froese is the most constant member of the band Tangerine Dream. Froese was born in 1944 in Tilsit in Prussia. His father had been killed by the Nazis. His surviving family, with his mother, moved to Berlin, and young Edgar showed an early interest in music and art. He started piano lessons aged 12 and took up the guitar aged 15. As a keen artist, he enrolled in the Academy of Art in Berlin to study sculpture and painting. Whilst designing posters for Berlin buses by day, by night he studied philosophy and psychology, gaining a doctorate in Kant's categorical imperative. To say that this channel is unqualified to discuss Kant's categorical imperative is an understatement. There seems to have been a maverick side to Edgar. He left academic studies after disagreeing with the faculty, apparently stating the dust of the universe is like a shroud over the truth. In 1965 he formed his first band. They played around Europe and even at Salvador Dali's home. This group, named The Ones, played psychedelic rock and R&B standards. Dali would inspire Froese to become more experimental in his approach to music. The Ones split up in 1967 after releasing a single record, and Froese returned to Berlin, where he began to recruit musicians for his new project, the free rock band Tangerine Dream. The band's name apparently due to Froese mishearing the line "Tangerine trees and marmalade skies" from the Beatles track Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. In the UK, they worked with Virgin Records and charted in the top 20 albums with their releases of Phaedra in 1974 and Rubicon in 1975. The band would write and perform scores for movies and even help create audio for the video game Grand Theft Auto. I'm not sure how Froese, who was a teetotal vegetarian non-smoker, got involved in making audio for Grand Theft Auto. Edgar also claimed he didn't take drugs, but I can't figure out how you could create psychedelic rock in the 1960s and stay 100% clean. Whilst I'm not judging, I am suspicious of the claim. Froese was a friend of such artists as David Bowie, Brian Eno, Iggy Pop, George Morse, Volker Schlondorf, Alexander Hack and Friedrich Gilder. David Bowie even lived with Froese and his family. Froese also helped Bowie with his recovery from drugs and introduced him to the Berlin underground scene. Bowie named Froese's solo album Epsilon in Malayan Pale as a big influence and a soundtrack to his life in Berlin. Froese left the planet in 2005. He and his friends have contributed much to the world of electronic music, sound and noise design. Tangerine Dream continued to contribute to the world of music. Committed to continuing Froese's vision, now under the leadership of Froese's chosen successor, Questioning, and I'm so sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I really like a quote attributed to Froese: "There is no death, there is just a change of our cosmic address." I suspect Froese would have been an excellent human to hang out with. I enjoyed watching his interviews and reading about him. I'll be searching out Tangerine Dream's electronica at my local vinyl store, and I hope people might feel inspired to listen to the music. It feels as though Kraftwerk may have overshadowed them in terms of fame, but in researching Edgar, I suspect that his contribution to the development of electronic music was perhaps as influential. And now, over to the modular to see what I can do with the filters in the system. So over at the modular, let's have a quick look at filters. I have 3 filters in my system. So I have the Frequency Central Raging Bull 3. I've got its predecessor, the Frequency Central Raging Bull, which I guess is 2, but it could be 1. I did build it a really long time ago. And then I've got the Frequency Central State 700. So 3 different filters. The first one, and the Raging Bulls, I think are modelled on the Moog Taurus filters. And then the State 700 is a bandpass, high pass, low pass filter. I think that's based on a Roland filter. So what we've got, just a good old oscillator. So the oscillator on its own sounds like this. It's doing a drone. We've got 3 different outputs. So we've got the sine wave, square wave, which we can pulse switch modulate. And then we've got the sawtooth or ramp. So 3 different oscillators. You can tap each one together. I'll start with the Raging Bull 3, and we'll just take the output from the Raging Bull 3 straight into the Frequency Central strips, which is a mixer, and we'll listen to that. So the controls on the filter, you've got the cutoff, which is this one, just changing the cutoff frequency, what it will allow through. And then you've got the resonance. If I turn the resonance all the way down, you get quite a dull sound. Getting a little bit harsher at the other end. Turn it up a little bit. As I turn the resonance up, you get harmonics. And as we go further, it'll start to self-oscillate, I guess. Usually happens about here somewhere. There you go. You can feel hear the harmonics in that. And if you go up higher, you'll get a lot more harmonics. I'll turn it down a bit to save your speakers. And you get the classic filter sweep. So if I take that now into the State 700, where we've got high pass, which is allowing the high frequencies through. Again, the cutoff is there, you can hear the low frequencies come back in and then wind them off. And again, with the resonance turned up. That's high pass. This is band pass. That's moving the frequency across its range. And then low pass. Of course, the great thing about a filter like that is you could take all the outputs at once. So just to demonstrate that. Get a mix of all 3. You also have the ability with that module to put in another another oscillator. I don't know where that oscillates out at the moment. I haven't tuned that one. I've tuned that one. Drifted a little bit. Another favourite thing to do with filters is to mix in some noise. So over here, I can mix in some pink noise, white noise, sorry. Okay, so let's have a look at frequency modulation. Now, I don't profess to understand this much at all, but what I believe is we can take two oscillators and we can use one to modulate the other and we get frequency modulation. I believe this works best with a sine wave. So this is the first sine wave. And that becomes what we call the carrier. So that's going to carry the signal, the sound to us. And then if we take another oscillator, we use this one to modulate that one. So this becomes the modulator. Here we go. That's it without. And as I turn up this control voltage, we'll start to hear the effect. And it's making more harmonics as the two mix together. The other thing I do is if I change the frequency of the modulator, it'll fundamentally change the sound of the carrier. And of course, if you can do it with one shaped waveform, you could do it with another. So that was the sine wave. This is now the square wave. And then this is the sawtooth. And because it's modular, I could use a signal like this to modulate that. Now, it's not the most pleasant sound in the world, it has to be said. So the other thing we could do is we could get an envelope going with it. So this is just going into a voltage controlled amplifier. And now if I take the output from here into there, and I run the output from the amplifier into the speakers, one of the things that FM's known for is that kind of twangy noise. And that's much more pleasant to listen to, right? Lots of interesting tones and overtones though, has to be said. Mad as a kettle. So there we go, that's analog oscillators. So two very simple oscillators. These again, Frequency Central. I sound like an advert for Frequency Central. It has been there since I got into this though. So Frequency Central has been amazing for me. I've thoroughly enjoyed building their modules. So all the Frequency Central modules you see are hand built by myself. But let's have a look at a different one. This is the Algo from RYK. And this is literally a frequency modulating design. So Jake from RYK, top chap, designed this, and it's a beautiful oscillator, which I can't hear at the moment. So there we go. It is there. It's a bit quieter. So what we've got here are 4 oscillators. They're all tuned to the same pitch at the moment. And I will turn this up so we can hear it a bit better. If I change any of these, then I'm going to change the pitch. And every time a green light comes on under them, it's moving it to the next octave below. Turn the volume up, you'll be able to hear them. We'll get a chord if we want. As far as we can go that way. Got a sub oscillator there. So we can get a nice easy chord. Now it's not doing anything in terms of frequency modulation at that point, but when I press this red button, it'll link two of those oscillators together. So now this oscillator is frequency modulating this one. And as I turn the cross modulation up, you can hear the effect. And by using this dial, I can attenuate how much of that signal goes through. And if I press the button again, now these two oscillators, this one's modulating this one. And again, I can use the volume to mix in as much as I want. Need to be careful of I'm clipping the sound. Oops. Pretty cool. And again, just like the other one, I think we can feed an envelope. So I'm never very good at this because there are a few little shortcut menu type things on it and I don't always get them right. But I think if I plug this into this one whilst holding this button down, oh no, other way around. There we go. That'll turn on a global voltage controlled amplifier for it. So now I've got it, you know, being triggered by the envelope, and that means I can change the envelope. Get it real short and snappy. Make it a lot longer. So there we go. But it doesn't stop there, because if I press the red button again, you can now see that oscillator 1 is now modulating oscillators 2, 3 and 4. You also have the ability to wavefold. And of course, because it's modular, we can use control voltage to wiggle the knobs for us. Speed that up a bit. A bit easier to hear the effect. And then we could use the other waveform to do the fold. And then we could use something completely different to use to do the cross modulation. And if I press the red button again, now both of these oscillators are modulating the others. And we'll attenuate those down a bit, it's a bit too much. And if I press the red button again, now these are linked, modulating these two. And I press it again. Now these three are modulating the last one. I think that's kind of my favourite. So there we go. Quick overview of frequency modulation. I don't fully understand frequency modulation, but basically it's one frequency modulating another. And that's it. And I think rather than understand the science of it, just play. Play with it. Throw an oscillator into another oscillator, or use something like the algo. Even this braids here, the Mutable Instruments braids, which is a beautiful, fantastic module, even that's got frequency modulation input. So you can usually put it in somewhere. On the frequency central oscillators, it's not marked as frequency modulation. It's marked as CV in, control voltage, but turns out works fine. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. It's been a bit of a challenge to make. This is the third time I've filmed the modular bit because I forgot to press record on the audio, or I forgot to press record on the video, or I deleted the files. I've just had a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. But there we go. I'm an amateur, and it's a very, very amateur production. But wherever you are in the world, I hope that you're safe, and I wish you peace and safety. Take care. Bye.